Today, let's learn how to make a deep house drum beat. This popular electronic style is known just as much for its pounding downbeats as it is for its dance-inducing upbeats. Deep house songs average between 120 to 125 beats per minute, so let's first set our song tempo to a fairly middle-of-the-road 122. The other defining element of deep house is its shuffle feel. The rhythms aren't straight-ahead time. They have some swing to them which makes you dance. In order to set this up, let's visit the Groove Mixer and enable Global Shuffle on Channel 2. For us today, the default value of 62% is perfect. In order for our drums to use that shuffle feel, let's create a Kong drum designer and route its sequencer track into the Groove Mixer channel A2 that we've set up for Global Shuffle. Now we could load one of the many presets that come with Kong. There's even one called Deep House. But when I started thinking about this tutorial, I started thinking about the way that house drums were first created. It originated from people who had primitive samplers by today's standards, but they found their favorite drum sounds on vinyl, sliced them up, and programmed their own rhythms with them. Not only can we do the same thing, but it's far easier in Reason than it ever was. Let's right-click and reset our Kong drum designer to clear it out. Now, just like the Deep House pioneers, let's go crate digging, but in the factory sound bank, to find our kick drum. For years, I used to look for bass drum sounds by going to the bass drum sample folder in the factory sound bank and auditioning samples one at a time. We've probably all done this. The problem is that these bass drum samples are devoid of context. It's just one bass drum on its own, one after another in a list. Techno bass drums, glitch bass drums, rock bass drums, jazz bass drums. And all of them sound good in their own way, but how do I know how they'll fit into a house beat when I've got claps and hi-hats and congas going? Well, the answer is I don't. What would be great is if I could listen to other completed beats and find a kick drum that is fitting in well with the other sounds. Well, I can do just that, and let me show you how. Instead of exploring single samples in the factory sound bank, let's instead listen to full Dr. Rex drum loops. I'll go to the house folder and find a full loop that includes the kind of kick drum sound that I'm after. That's too small sounding. That one's probably too aggressive sounding for deep house. Yeah, that's a nice kick. And most importantly, it sounds good with the other drums around it. You may not know that Rex files in the Reason browser can be explored just as if they're folders. Expand any Rex file, and each slice of the loop can be seen, selected, and auditioned until I find just the bass drum slice. Now I can drag that one slice onto pad 1 of my Kong. Let's draw in the kick drum pattern for our beat in the sequencer. Now this part is easy. Deep house beats rely on the tried and true 4 on the floor kick drum pattern. One hit on every beat like this. For the snare drum, deep house commonly uses a clap sound instead of a snare drum. Let's repeat our technique of crate digging through the factory sound bank to find a loop with a nice sounding clap. This one's probably too basic. That's probably too disco. But that's nice. Let's expand that. Find the clap slice and drag that onto our second pad. We'll pencil in our claps on beats 2 and 4, and you can hear that our beat is just starting to take shape. As I said in the beginning, deep house is as much about these pounding downbeats as it is about the dance-inducing upbeats. If we look at our sequence, you can visually consider the kick and clap as the solid foundation of our beat. But all of this space in between each downbeat is available for percussion sounds, and so we'll use that space starting with the hi-hats. In fact, we can draw it in on our sequencer before we've even found our sound. Now let's find a complete loop with a nice hi-hat slice. Yeah, not so much. Yeah. So you know the routine by now. Expand the Rex file, find the slice, and drag it on. And since we drew our beats into the sequencer already, we've got our open hi-hat already going. There's another hi-hat sound in deep house called the closed hi-hat. Let's now look for a loop that has some nice, crisp, closed hi-hats. Now I like those. There's a lot going on in this loop, but if we can manage to find one of those hi-hat slices on their own, it would be great. There it is. These closed hi-hats will fill in the gap between our open hi-hat upbeat and the clap downbeat. So with our basic beat done, all we need to do is add a little extra flair. And we'll do that first by enhancing our hi-hats with a little shaker. Shaker sounds can be combined with our open hi-hat to give a little sizzle. Instead of searching this house folder to find a beat that uses the shaker, let's actually cut right to the chase and look in the Factory Soundbank's Dr. Rex percussion loops. We'll go to shakers, and the first one is probably fine. And we're just going to duplicate the open hi-hat pattern up to the shaker pad in our sequencer. The final flair that we'll add to this beat is conga sounds. Conga is a common texture in deep house music. Let's go back to our Dr. Rex house folder and find some congas. There's even one loop called congas. But you know, it's a bit drier than I'd like. I'm looking for something more vibey and actually less perfect. Yeah, like that. Conga rhythms typically have two pitches, one high note and one low note. The first slice has the high pitch that I want, so I'll drag that onto pad 6. Now let's find the slice with the lower pitch. Aha! You can see we have a problem. The slices with the lower conga hit also have a clap sound happening on top of it. So here we are, faced with the same problem those original house producers were faced with when they were sampling records. And guess what? We can solve the problem the same way. We've already got one pad doing our higher conga sound. Right-click pad 6 to copy it. Now right-click pad 7 to paste it. On pad 7, let's adjust the pitch of the drum down. Now we'll draw the conga rhythm into the sequencer. This is where experimentation and your own musicality will really take off. But as a good foundational strategy for our learning process, let's look to reinforce the shuffle feel of the closed hi-hats. We'll do just that much and check it out. If we applied that strategy too literally and just did that through the rest of our loop, it would feel super repetitive. We have to change up the phrase and really make it feel like a completed musical thought. Since we accentuated the upbeats and the shuffle feel in the first half of the measure, let's accentuate the straight ahead feel of the second half of the measure. I'll add 2 more hits in line with the clap and the hi-hat. And I'll do one of those again in the second measure on the clap, but I'll leave space on the last hi-hat. There's no wrong answer here, but let's see how this sounds. I'm ready to call the programming step done. All I want to do now is a little mixing to polish our sound. First off, for these congas, I'm going to pan each pad so they bounce back and forth in headphones a little bit. And we can make our congas color the beat's rhythm even more with some tape echo. To do that, I create a tape echo on Kong's bus effects, turn off the wobble, turn up the feedback, and set our time to about here. I'll select each conga pad one by one and send their signal to the bus effects. And now our beat has the conga phrase that we created, but with all these little ghosted sounds filling in around it. Let's even turn it up. So there you have it. We've made a totally passable deep house drum beat. But perhaps most importantly, we've done it using classic sampler techniques for an authentic sounding beat. So go forward and experiment wildly from here. Good luck, and I'll see you again here with another style.